All right. Hey, everyone. It's Elizabeth Wood. Welcome. And here we are with our New Earth Conversation series about helping humanity heal. What is that beautiful path to a healed humanity? And I get to actually interview one of my friends, which is so awesome. Her name is Adria Estribou. Ooh. And she is truly an angelic channel. She's an open door. She can hear and really connect with the angels. Close to my heart is the angelic realms and how precious all of that light really is. And you'll find as you hear Adria speak that that's what you'll experience too. Be open in your heart to feel the angelic presence around you. Everyone has angelic presence around them. And Adria is this wonderful example of somebody who has been able to get out of the way to be able to speak very clearly and give us the information from these wonderful beings, these friends of ours who've been on this journey to help humanity heal. And so welcome, Adria. I'm so excited to get to interview you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm so delighted to be here and just sparkling with, I don't know what's happening, what's about to happen. I always feel that way before the angels speak through me because I don't know in a mental sense, what they're going to say, which takes a lot of trust, but also is ultimately more relaxing because I'm not in charge. I don't have to know anything. Like you said, my job is to get out of the way. I was just thinking this morning, it's so funny. I was like, is it really, like, my job description is I talk with angels. Like, that's literally what I do for a living. It's so bizarre and wonderful. So I'm delighted to be here with you and to be a conduit for angelic grace and understanding for us to come through.
And that's what it is. It's grace. It's grace. It's understanding. And I think that leads us to try to understand where we're at as a collective, as a species at the moment. We have this beautiful species, the angels, who've had our backs the whole time, this whole experiment on Earth. They've been with us the whole time. They know us probably better than most beings out there in the universe know humans. They know us better than anyone, really. And they've been our friends, and that's why they're here, is to help us. And the topic they had brought up for us through you was the mind. And so what would you, Adria, and the angels like to share about what's happening to the human mind right now? Why does it feel so difficult to be human mentally at the moment?
Yeah. Let me start with, something you said about the angels just sparked in me, like, wow, do they love us? They're such an example for me because they live it. It's not a face they put on of unconditional love and non-judgment. So as they talk about what's going on for humanity right now, and many people, I'm sure some of your guests have talked about this kind of split between third and fifth dimension, or people choosing to ascend or kind of stay where we are. And I had this sort of spiritual sense about that years ago, like, well, of course it's better to move higher, and, lower means lower kind of thing, in a judgmental way, but the angels are so beautiful about it. They really just say, isn't it wonderful that people have a choice, and the expression of free will to them, that's beautiful to see. Some people really want to be in this third dimensional experience and keep learning that way, and some people want to move into fifth and higher dimensions, and that to them it's just important that we have free will in that. And I've never heard just even a shred of judgment from them about, but these are the really special people who are more spiritual, moving higher. There's none of that. It's just, they do feel very strongly, from what I can hear in their words, that we should have free will, that we should have sovereignty over our own choices. So what's happening now, and hopefully they'll speak more directly about this, but on a humanity-wide level, what's happening now is there are beings, as I've come to understand, that are trying to control us, trying to control humanity through the mind. So some forms of hypnosis, mass messaging, mind control, and it's very subtle. So I can tell you what it feels like to me as someone who's empathic and very human in this earth. I will wake up and just feel like, wait a minute, like what's going on? It will feel so heavy some days. And then it's this sifting through and discernment of, is that me? Is that my mind? Or is it something like literally the way I've come to perceive it is, it's almost like if someone had a megaphone in your ear, like be depressed, be very depressed, you should be afraid today. It's learning to recognize, oh, that's not my voice. That's someone or something else telling me to be afraid, to be depressed, to feel like, what's the point? And sometimes there's a clue for me. The voice will just seem different than mine, like it's sarcastic or it's different. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not how I think. That's not a normal thought for me. So you come to learn these clues, but basically the problem is when we don't know that there's a voice or trying to supplement, pretend to be our own thinking. Because if you're having a conversation with someone who's very negative and it's a person sitting there in your living room, and then you can have a choice. Oh, yeah, they're sparking some fear and I believe in that and I want to feel afraid about that circumstance in the world. And you're consciously choosing that, or unconsciously. Anyway, you're aware it's because this person said this thing to you. But if it's happening in the background, that's a problem, I think, from my judgment on it, and from the angels rarely speak forcefully, I would say, but on this topic, they've been quite forceful. That, hypnosis is not okay, mass messaging is something to be wary of. So I think that's the topic they wanted to bring to mind, mostly so that we can be aware of it, because it's not that it's stronger than we are. It's not that it overpowers us, but if you're not aware, it's not even your own thought. Oh, I'm so depressed. What's the point of living? And then you respond and react as if that's how you feel about your life. And that's very different than if there's a friend of yours or an enemy of yours, whoever in the living room, that says, you should feel really depressed about your life. You should probably not live anymore. What's the point? Then you could laugh at them or be like, oh, I should, you could have a dialogue about it, but at least, it's not coming from you. So that, I think, is the essence of where the discernment comes. And,
I like that. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to validate that too, because this is very real. This is technologically real. It's not only physical tech, it's mystical tech. And that there are generators of fear that are created simply to keep people feeling suppressed, oppressed, depressed. And that is what we're really talking about, that so many people you and I have worked with, that oppression is real, and it draws upon deep fears. It creates thoughts and patterns and feelings that are not yours. It creates confusion, all of which are the point. And so we want to validate anyone out there who says, wow, that I live that every day. You're not alone. Every single one of us, Adria and I included, have had that experience. We are lucky to be mystics and to know that this is a mystical path we're on, that those challenges and those issues that are so painful are there for learning, and that we're here to access all these dimensions. If we are willing, if we want to learn from that, we can. But I think it's really important that the angelic are representing that non-judgment, that, hey, everybody's exactly where they need to be, where their greatest learning is going to be. So we can all sigh a big breath of relief, like, okay, I am where I'm supposed to be right now. Even if it is feeling depressed and suicidal in that moment, that is something that your soul is in, so that it can discover it fully. And that's part of this path to healing, I think, is to allow ourselves to feel that non-judgment. And thank you, Adria. It was very apparent. It comes through the non-judgment, the true love the angels have for us.
Yes, I think I see that the most in what the angels share. It's not so much that they give advice to, oh, if you only changed your circumstance or if you were only better. I have never heard them say that. If you only tried harder, if you were, that's the that's the narrative from humankind. If you only tried harder, you get. I have never heard them say anything like that. It's always just this love of, isn't it amazing? Look at this lesson that you called into your life to learn, or look at the opportunity here. It's so sweet. I really feel blessed to take in their viewpoint on us. Yeah,
That's special. Me too. And so that kind of leads into, okay, that sets up our game board for us.
yes.
That this dynamic of control versus lack of control, mind control versus free will. That is where we're at. We are practicing in this playing field. What other things would the angelic like to talk about the playing field exactly? What are the other attributes of this playing field?
Sovereignty is what I would say is the moment we're in. And by moment, I mean, I don't know, 10 years, 2 months, I don't know, but the sea change that the angels see in humanity, sorry to use two different spellings of that word in one sentence. You got that? Um, is that we're coming into our sovereignty. Really from angelic perspective, since almost the beginning of humankind, we have been under subjugation of one kind or another, mostly not aware of that. For most of those lifetimes, we weren't wearing chains like slaves, but we were essentially slaves or being subjugated in some way. And now humanity, the really, really good news is we're out of that. So the only thing that's keeping us in any kind of enslavement right now is habit, really, or your own belief system that I can't do that because I tried it 20 times before, so I know. Like that, this is the mind's beautiful role, right? To remember and repeat patterns. Oh, I know how the world works. I do that and I fail, right? So what the angels are here to tell us is, okay, we have a lot of compassion for the fact that, you weren't wrong. 2 years ago, 10 years ago, anytime you tried that, you were going to fail because you were in this whole system you weren't even aware of subjugation and of enslavement of humanity. But now that we're out of that, try again. I think the hardest thing maybe for some of our hearts that have been broken so many times when we move towards our wishes is to hear this little whisper from the angels, just try one more time. It's going to work this time. The only thing that's keeping you between you and all of your wishes is this belief in your own mind. I can't do that. I know how the world works. Yeah, but the angels would say, you know how the world used to work. You're right about it. But it's moved on. The time has really, really changed for humanity. And I know we won't be able to get into every layer of this on this call. So I do want to mention that in 2018 and 2019, the angels spoke a lot about these topics of sovereignty and the sea change for humanity. And that's in a book that just came out in April called Angel Insights for Unprecedented Times. So that's angels Raphael and Ariel channeled through me. So if you're curious about this and want to hear more of the details, whatever portion we don't get to get into today, that's up as an ebook and a paperback. But that, I would say, sovereignty is really, really key because our role now as free will beings is stepping into that. So our choice is unlimited, first of all. Except that we're not all aware that we now have unlimited choices. So if we're playing by the old, on the old game board, just know you're completely free from that, completely free. So it's time to make your own choices again, and not even necessarily have trust in that, but try it out. Try some small wish or some big wish and see what happens.
Oh, I like that. Yes, give it a try.
Yeah.
One of the things the angels are showing me also now, too, is hey, look, if you're willing to try now, to bow to your skepticism, to bow to your doubts and say, thank you for helping me all these years. I really appreciate that you were there to help, that we got through up to this time. And if you're willing to try, if you're willing to say, all right, can I imagine what I really want? Can I feel it? Can I act on it? Can I let it go? Can I give it to source and let source surprise me at how it will unfold? That we're doing this not just for ourselves, we're trying on behalf of all of our lineage as well.
Yes.
We're taking with us those tens of thousands of people who were in chains. We're taking them with us into freedom. Nobody's going to get left behind. Every person who decides to try right now is throwing open the doors for all of their lineage.
Yes.
And that's even more extra beautiful, that it's not just us who gets to have that taste of freedom.
Right. It's not just the chosen ones or the few who figure it out, right? The angels have said that so many times, that when you, even if you're alone in your room, which is more applicable to a lot of us right now in quarantine times, right? Even if you're alone in your room and you don't tell anyone about it, when you make that choice to try something new, to believe that your choices are unlimited and try out freedom, try out sovereignty on a quantum level, people around the world just saw and heard that. And now they know it, and they just know. Aren't you seeing that? I'm seeing that so much on social media and other places right now, where people just, it's not they learned it from anyone or they read it anywhere. People are just, all of a sudden they just know, oh no, that's not true. Or, whoa, we're in a totally different time now. It's just this amazing resonance around the planet. People just know something's different. And when each step that each of us makes towards that, wishing for a chocolate bar and it appears, whatever it is, it can be very small, but it gives you that trust the world is different now. Then someone else just learned that. It's amazing.
I love it. And that's been proven as a fact. Like, for example, in the 1940s, which is technically like a whole world away from where we're at.
Yes.
They had this study done in the CIA where they were trying to understand why all these scientists all over the world suddenly invented the same thing. None of them had contact with each other. And they had all these special code names for this group of people they were watching, because all these inventors invented the same technology all at once, all at the same time, and totally different separate parts of the world. And that's when this phenomena was actually being measured. And now what we see it as is the one mind of not only source consciousness, but human consciousness. And that is a measurable actual fact, that no matter if you feel separate or the illusion of being alone in your room is occurring, because you're in a human body, you're naturally already tapped into the natural internet of reality, the true internet of light and information, which the angelic embody in of themselves. But the activity of us discovering something, then bam, it's available in consciousness. It opened up that whole section of the library for everybody to get access to, no matter what dimension they feel like they're at, no matter what issues they're faced with, it's all available. It's so precious that that can occur. So what would you and the angelic share about what are some of the very clear steps of practicing or trying out free will and sovereignty? How can we do that? You mentioned the chocolate bar, which is fabulous. What are some of these ways that we can practice our free will and our sovereignty?
Yeah, Raphael would like to come through with a message. That's all right. So this is Angel Raphael. So yes, on a day-to-day basis, know that in your own life, these choices are not small. So each time that you question, is that my thought? It's like that's being magnified like a ripple in a pond over the entire universe here of human understanding. So other people wake up to, wait a minute, is that even my thought? Because it's different, when you're not aware and you're so invested in believing that every thought that's in your consciousness is your own, then you're used to being the manager of your universe, and so you follow that. But when you're aware that sometimes it's not your own and you begin to experiment with discerning, those are the practical steps. It's very, very practical. So for example, you read something in the newspaper, see it on television, and something doesn't feel quite right, but who do you ask, right? Are you going to call the president? Is there some expert or some galactic being who really knows the truth, the quote unquote truth about this? And how do I know whether or not to feel afraid or, run into my room or run out and revolt that we shouldn't be hidden in our rooms? Something doesn't feel right though. So honor that, start with that piece, and very, very simply. So many of you have other gifts, but let's say that you don't believe that of yourself right now. So you're dealing with the five senses. What can I perceive? Are there zombies? We say this jokingly, like, is it the zombie apocalypse? Let me look out my window. Are there corpses? Are my neighbors dropping dead right now? No? Okay, well, that's what I can perceive right now. My neighbors seem to be walking around fine, keeping our distance, but I see them. They're still alive. I'm still alive. I feel pretty good. It's sunny today. So really, really on a simple level, what are you experiencing? And does it match what you're being told? And if it doesn't, trust yourself more than what you're being told. So again, it's not important that you understand the science of the virus, which beings are in control of all this, who's trying to whisper in your ear, but the fact that you start to discern what is truth for me. And I am sovereign over my own experience. So in my world right now, I feel grumpy. Okay, what might be the reasons for that? Or in my world right now, I'm reading a great book. I don't really feel like watching television that wants to tell me I'm afraid. I'm not. I'm just not afraid today. Great, turn it off. So it can be, of course, very esoteric, very mystical. There are many, many layers to this, like anything. But start simply with the tools that are in your own perception, those that you already trust. So many of you are coming into new tools right now, but those you might not feel like leaning on just now, you might not trust them yet. So experiment, enjoy those new tools. At the same time, stay with what is very practical, what you do know and trust. What is your mental state? Is it different? Is it off somehow today? And could it be that that's coming from some sort of subterranean infiltration of your consciousness? Does it feel like that? Does it feel like someone or something's in my head? And honor that, that, that. You can just ask yourself that question. Is this my thought? Oh, it's not? Okay, well, I don't want to have you then. So you can be cheeky with this. It's not so much of a battle time. In the past, again, the mind remembers this, and in so many of your beautiful, blessed lifetimes of struggle, you remember this. If this was occurring 20 years ago, or in another lifetime, or in another plane of existence, this would be war. This would be battle. This would be time for you to get out the machete, the machine gun, the spear, whatever your weapons are, your psychic powers, and do battle against these forces. But that's not the time we're in. It's not the time humanity is in. This is the time of freedom. So generally, we like to use this metaphor again and again of a prison that you have been in. Humanity has been in a prison. And now the door is wide open, but you're still sitting in the prison cell. So do you choose to stay there because it's comfortable and familiar? And we understand, dears, we understand it feels quite terrifying to walk through that open door because none of your ancestors have ever been there. So how do you know what's there? You've never been free. So we understand. We judge you not for staying where you are. At the same time, no, the paradigm is not of battle. There's no guard there. There's no boogeyman of any galactic race waiting to kill you if you try to step through that door. It is, in fact, quite powerless. Those beings that are trying to control you, it is like the Oz, for those of you who know that movie or book, you know, with the bullhorn behind the curtain saying, be afraid, be very, very afraid. That's not what you should be afraid of. What you should be afraid of is staying asleep, staying in prison just because you don't realize the door is open. So the more that you can make those choices of free will, even if you're not ready to step out of the prison yet, choose what meal you want for lunch or make free will choices. It's so essential for your beingness. And as Elizabeth had said, for those ancestors who come later after you, make free will choices because this is the time for humanity to stand up. And it's just about choices. It's not about battle. The battle has been won. And you were one of those warriors that helped to win the battle. And that's some of the confusion here, because you have been battle ready for your entire existence as humans. Let's see, at least by the end of the first generation of humanity, you were battle ready because that's what was served to you. So you adapted, you became ready for battle. But there's no one to fight now. Those forces are quite powerless. And it's only this habit of the mind that wants to keep you in the old pattern, because that's what the mind does. And the mind, as Elizabeth has said, is so beautiful in that. Isn't it helpful that when you wake up in the morning, you don't have to wonder, what is this thing, you know, this chair in front of me, or what am I? What is my role in my family? The mind does a beautiful job of remembering patterns. So here is where you get to struggle a little bit with the mind and say, thank you so much. And also, back off right now. I'm making some free will choices and they don't have anything to do with what my ancestors experienced in the past.
That means so much to me, to hear that the door is open and that the battle is over, because that part of me, the warrior part, it wants the battle to keep going. I had this funny vision at one point. I can see the time of freedom and sovereignty and rebuilding is upon us. And my warrior self, in Egypt, she had these two swords, and she's standing around like poking at stuff with her sword because she's bored. She doesn't have anybody to fight anymore. And for like a month it was like this, and I'm like, all right, what are you doing? Do you need a new job? Because you're waiting for battle that's not going to happen anymore. And yeah, to take that part of ourselves, the warrior parts of ourselves that have been so well honed and trained for millennia about how to do this battle, to give them a different job. So I'd like to present that question. What are some of the things we can do with that part of ourselves that desire to be in battle? These are like subconscious parts of ourselves or skill sets that we have that have been really honed, yet they're still useful. But how can we recreate those skills to be in service now? In sovereignty, what kind of comes up around that possibility?
This is Ariel, Angel Ariel. Celebrate the victory. So the battle persona wants that greatness, has been pursuing and has been denied that greatness for all of humankind. And suddenly here is the victory, and yet where is the party? So have a party, celebrate the victory. And that is the way to honor that piece of you, because really we don't want the warrior to fall away. Although we don't foresee for humanity that battle is returning anytime soon, you don't want to leave those skills behind. You don't want to dishonor or shove that persona in the closet. But why don't you let it have some victory parties and celebrate? This is a big win. How many civilizations, Lemuria and others, did not succeed through this battleground? And humanity, beautiful, fragile humanity, has succeeded. Of course, there were a lot of helpers, some of them re-embodied Lemurians and angels and others, other galactic friends. And yet it is humanity ultimately who has succeeded, who is victorious in this time. So celebrate that victory and let that piece of yourself that is battle ready remain so. It's good to have sentries, it's good to have strength. And perhaps begin to notice the other parts of yourself that are available. So it's not so much from our perspective, angelic perspective, retasking the warrior to do something else, but putting that warrior up on a pedestal and saying, you finally won. Congratulations. And then looking around to see, okay, great. Well, is it a play day then? And what is that? You get to innocently recognize, even battles after a great victory, even battle-ready warriors got to play, eat, and drink, have sex, whatever that meant in those time periods. But whatever it means to you, what does it mean to play? To be in a time where you're still aware that strength is there. That's an important part of being able to play. But you're not so engaged, your energies are not so engaged in that shell or layer so much. So celebrate the victory.
Well, that's a huge relief, seriously. But that's a paradigm shift right there. Everybody gets to celebrate the victory right now, especially if you're feeling like you're not victorious.
Right.
Or especially if you're feeling oppressed today. To actually say, you know what? That's the illusion. The victory is that it's already here. We've done it. We are sovereign, and now I'm choosing this, and I'm going to celebrate this. And that feels so good to say, good job, you did it. And we do it for our inner selves, we do it for our soul, but we do it for all of the people who came before us too. They get to have the party finally they've been waiting for. I can feel that. It's like this big buildup behind us saying, yeah, let's do it. Now we get to celebrate where we're at right now. And then the next piece that comes in naturally for me is that part of myself that pulls her sleeves up and says, all right, now we gotta rebuild and we're gonna make it look really great. Let's have this party, and in this party, let's celebrate and let's imagine, let's dream the future.
Yes.
The future that starts with a party.
Yeah, and ends with or continues into a daydream. Yeah, I love that you use those words to dream and imagine, as the angels describe fifth dimension, which I think is, largely, without putting too many labels on it, it seems like largely what humanity is moving into. So it's a different kind of reality than third dimension. It works differently. And one of the ways it works differently is, instead of this like manifesting and doing and striving and achieving, or striving and failing, whatever that paradigm, in fifth dimension, it's a lot more like, laying on the grass and watching the clouds and daydreaming, like, oh, wouldn't that be fun? Like when you were a child and no one had told you can't be an astronaut, and you're just like, yeah, I want to be that, I want to do that, and wouldn't that be fun? It's not coming from kind of ambition or ego or limitation at all, just, well, that would be fun. And that's in my experience how I did switch back to Adria, for those who didn't catch that. um, that's in my experience how fifth dimension works. It's so funny. It's like so effortless, easy. It's those times when it's just those thoughts float through like, oh, wouldn't that be nice? And then it appears, you know, it's not those times when I'm so serious about I need this or I want this or I want to make this happen. That's very third dimension. And we all know, you know, how effective that plane of existence is. Not very. So yeah, it is very daydreamy, and it comes not from a sense of urgency or need and a want in the old way we're used to experiencing it. But what does the heart truly want? The unlimited heart, you know? Because that's what we are now in this time of without limits, which is taking time to absorb and really feel the reality of that. It's quite shocking. Some days I really get it, and many days I'm still in doubt because my mind remembers a whole lot of days, a whole lot of lifetimes of three-dimensional reality. I'm like, that's crazy talk. You know?
Yeah, it's all about the access, and that limitless feeling is a taste of stepping off the game board, of being finished with the game board and recognizing that we are creators of our reality, and then the full body experience of oneness with everything else, so that there is no more separation where we're wanting to control the activities of a person or an elite group or a powerful group or an not powerful group. That none of that then really exists. And yet then, while we get to still play in 3D, it then is informed by its consistently we've got more physical access than to all of those other realms of light all at the same time, and including the angelic, because I do think that as these different traumas get shifted, as we begin to practice and play with sovereignty, that it will reveal to us just how one we really are at a whole universal level, and in that beautiful angelic dimension, to know that all that knowledge that the angels have innately, that's us too, and that the whole reason they've been here is to show us that, to be it, to mirror it for us. That's why there is no judgment from them, because they really ultimately are us. And I love that about them. And that's really out there and esoteric too, but 5D makes even more sense than the embodiment of the angelic. But I think that's where we're going, is that all these dimensions and all of source, we get to physically experience it. And that, I think, is why the angelic has remained in wonder and fascination with us, and why they love us so much, because they know what our potential is even when we have not discovered it yet. And they still know more than we do about that potential, even now. And we're so lucky, you and I, we get to hear and see some of this stuff. But now here we get to share it. So what would you, Adria, and also the angelic, want to point out about the rest of the folks around us? A lot of my clients, you know, they say, well, I'm on this path and I'm trying out the sovereignty, I'm playing with this, but gosh, you know, my partner or my children or my family members and friends all think I'm absolutely crazy and that we're all going to die. How do we deal, which is true, just not maybe exactly how we all thought. So what comes through about how do we manage with so many of our friends being in a 3D mindset, and here we're trying to play with and experiment with sovereignty? We're going to get some pushback about our madness, as they say. What comes up? How can we navigate that better?
This is Raphael, Angel Raphael. So it's quite simple, dears. You are coming out of a time of being subjugated by others, being told what your choices were, being told what to do. So don't play that role for others. Just for yourself, make your own free will choices. But if someone else wants to believe right now that they need to be in fear in order to survive, it's not your role to tell them otherwise. Do you see how that casts you in the role of the subjugator? Even though you had this painted this gloss on it of that's me being spiritual and loving and kind, and forgive us for speaking in an unvarnished way here, but that's how many religions got away with being so cruel to people for so long. It's never right to tell someone else how to feel or how to be, even if you believe from some egoic sense that that's you helping them. People do not need to be saved. People do not need to be saved. They are all equally God, as are you. So you get to play in your sovereignty, and you let others play in theirs. They're having a dance with fear right now. It's fine. They're not losing. Even if they stay in third dimensional fear up until their death, whenever that might be in this plane of existence. They have so many chances in between lifetimes and other lifetimes to play lighter games. Maybe as a soul, they really wanted to experience this level of density. You cannot know that from the outside. You cannot understand on behalf of any other free will individual what is right for them. You can understand what is right for me. What is right for me. So do not let others' fear sway you into believing, well, because they're in fear, I must be in fear also. But don't play the game of I am better than. I know better because I'm giggling over here and you're in fear, so I must be more enlightened. Maybe that's true, but a more enlightened person would never ever try to force their will on another. So let them be. Love people exactly how they are and make choices for yourself if it's uncomfortable for you right now to be around those family or friends quite so much because it's dragging you down a little to hear so much fear. Gently make that choice, but don't make it about how they are lesser than. Just make it about how what you need to do is practice being in joy right now, and how natural that feels despite what the media is telling you, and experimenting with how joyful that feels to have a choice for once. So it's all right. Just don't go around telling other people what to do and bossing them around, and you'll come through this just fine. And so will they.
That's so beautiful. It's perfect. It reminds me a little bit of how I try to communicate to people as an oracle. My job is to reveal to people things that they might not have been able to see before. And sometimes in my revealing, I am affecting their choices. So I present it that way. May I make a suggestion? I have something that I'm seeing that might be useful. I have an idea that might be really nice for you right now. Would that be okay? Could I share this? And then when we share it, not taking it personally if they don't receive it, if they don't want it, if they don't like it, or if they're skeptical of it. Perhaps they even tell you that you're false. That isn't personal against us. Just to remain in that state of giving, of serving, and allowing that person's free will to say, hey, I need to feel like this is false right now, that's perfect too. And it takes practice, but we can do it by mirroring to people what they're experiencing. You sound very afraid right now. That makes a lot of sense considering where you're at the moment. We can validate people where they're at then. At the moment, I don't feel afraid, but I have a certain perspective. May I share it with you? Then people can choose in that moment to say, no, I really don't want to hear that right now, which is perfectly fine. And then noticing, do I react to that? That's us taking it personally. It hits our ego, and then we take it personally. Or if they do choose to listen to it or whatever, it'll go from there, but to trust that. Does that sound like a useful way to communicate without impeding into free will?
Yes, this is Raphael, Angel Raphael. So if you can think of, we perceive you like this host, since we had talked about chocolate bars. So you love chocolate so much and you want to offer this to your guests, but you don't really know. Some may be allergic or just really not like that flavor. So when you offer something to a guest, it's an offering. It's not a shove it down their throating. So if someone doesn't want what you have to offer, don't turn it into a battlefield. Just, oh, okay, great. Not everyone likes that, or not right now. Maybe they're full right now. Yeah, so offer lightly your perspective. You have a lot to share. All of you listening have a lot to share with your family and friends, but do it in a way more directly. Show them by being that, by being not in fear today. You're showing thousands, not just the 3 in your home. So that's a more powerful position. Show people their options by choosing a different option that's not mind controlled. By choosing not to live under that voice that you're aware now is not your own, then do that. Be that brave to be in joy or peace or just mundane boredom, as Elizabeth had said, because your warrior self says, oh, well, all right, it's not a battle. Okay. So boredom, there's so many expressions, beautiful colors coming out of this quarantine time. And boredom is one of them. And look at amazing treasures that are being born and skills that are being unearthed, and certainly babies that will be born. Many kinds of creativity happening now out of boredom because those old roles aren't needed anymore.
That's a very good point. And that leads us to my last question, which is we've covered like where we're at right now, why it's different than before, how we can play at this level, how to give our warrior selves something to do other than be bored, but to celebrate them, to be in a celebration state at this moment, how to navigate with folks around you who feel differently than you do without impeding on their free will. And now that comes to creating the new earth, creating these new relationships that are based in this pure appreciation, equality, equanimity, sovereignty, compassion, unconditional love, the embodiment of what humans are capable of is this universal level compassion, which is going to expand to a galactic level. Any beings we've ever had tiffs with for millions of years, the war is done at that level too. And now we are in creating time. It is a bit of a cleanup time, I think, like cleaning up some of the programming and all of that, cleaning up some of the physicality of our programming, like our lifestyles are going to change a lot. But what would the angels like to say about this the creating of this new human, the one mind, one heart, one body? What are some things that the angels would like to reveal right now about that creating process? Because we're in the middle of it. We've begun it.
This is Ariel, Angel Ariel. Even the angels do not know what's next. That is how much free will humanity has now, and it is beautiful for us to watch. Even the role of angels will change because humanity is redefining herself, and each of you have a role in this because you are unlimited in your choices. We cannot say that too many times. That means there is no limit to your choices. So what you create in your own life, in your own mind, in your own existence, you truly create your world. And there's this beautiful interchange then of these free will beings and the interweaving, the network of these different free will universes you are each creating. And that becomes what we call humanity. And it's evolving so rapidly now that you've fallen off the timeline, let's say. You're ahead of, humanity is ahead of those predictions in Mayan calendars and others that predicted that 2020 would be a central time. Really, you came early in about 2018 into some of those big sea changes for humanity. So humanity is doing so well in that sense, is so off the curve or off the charts that we cannot predict for you what is next because you are embracing freedom so fully. That means our job largely is done, angelic role here with humanity. It doesn't mean angels are abandoning humanity. We're sticking around still to help and also to see what our role might be and whether or not humanity can learn free will from humans. We don't have as much free will as humans do at this time, angels. So will humanity inform angelic existence, perhaps, or will we split so that angels go to serve other types of races that need what we are, what angels are? So we cannot predict what is happening because it is truly uncharted, but not in a scary way, not in a dangerous way, in a way that is so profoundly beautiful to the soul. So know that you truly are creating humanity. You are creating what is next. You are not living out the destiny of humanity. That's the old way. You did that very well. Thank you. Angels did the same. We all lived out our destiny, but now you are creating, and what you create is up to you.
Wow. Really felt that ignite something in me around the, I am the new human. I am the new human right now. And as I practice being the new human, then the future is there at each moment. Yeah. And even as a seer, I don't see the future. That is not possible. It's far too broad, far too amazing, far too many possibilities, and they're all perfect.
Wow.
So trying to cling on to any specific kind of future, well, I don't have to cling on to it. We can be it. We can create it now. And that's empowerment. And I feel that ignited in me. So I first want to thank the angelic, and thank you, Adria, for being such a clear, ego-free channel for the angelic. It's a very precious gift. Thank you so much for the beautiful words you've shared and the igniting of our freedom going on at the moment and the party. Adria's giving us permission to party, everybody. Sounds good to me.
The biggest introvert on the planet, just yeah. The angels just said through her, everyone go party now.
There you go. Any last final thoughts? And then what website can people go to learn more about you? There should be a button on the page that this will be on where people can go sign up to receive some gifts from you and directly connect with you. So that'll be there. But what's your direct website that would be useful for people?
It's wingsound, WINGSOUND.com.
I just love that. So pretty. Good. And so any last final thoughts, Adria and the angelic? What last message would like to be heard and seen?
This is Ariel, Angel Ariel. We bless you with who you are. Gently step out of the shell of who you were, the shell of who you misunderstand yourself still to be. Come out of that into who you are.
Thank you for that invitation. I have no idea what I'm going to look like on the other side.
Either. This is Adria. It's so, yeah, it's mind-blowing.
And it's both, I know it's good because it freaks me out, at the same time makes me really excited and happy. That's how I know it's juicy, because I'm and totally excited. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Adria. I'm so glad we got to have fun together, share this light. Thank you.
What a gift. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bless you. And we will be in touch with all of you, connecting with other speakers, but also with Adria again. We will do it again.
Wonderful.
We'll get to do some deeper work, I hope, about, with the angels. And I think that's coming for sure. Good. Namaste, my friends, and namaste to you, dear Adria and angels.